Across this globe, people of all ages, ethnicities, backgrounds, and challenges have what they describe as an ordinary story. Here, no one is ordinary. We celebrate people for who they are and, more importantly, who they've always wanted to be. Some used to play sports, others never got the chance to. In the virtual world, nothing else matters except your will to be great and your ability to make an impact on and off the field. We build friendships. We build teamwork. We celebrate in the wins and gain fuel from the losses. The true melting pot, a celebration of how exciting and fun life can be. Tonight, 20 more get drafted from couch to field, and the stories they will share, the moments they will cherish with their friends, present and future, their families and children for years to come, are anything but ordinary. This is the SFL Rookie Draft.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to round 3 of the SFL Rookie Draft for Season 14, the Winter 2020 season. I'm Mike Daggs, Director of Broadcasting for the Simulation Football League. I'll be your host once again tonight, so if you were hoping for a different host, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I am back again. With me, once again, the same panel from last night. Colin Northrup, sitting right to my side here. He is the co-owner of the St. Louis Gladiators. And how you doing tonight, Colin?
I'm doing pretty good, Dags. I'm excited.
You ready for 2 more hours of draft action?
Yeah, there were a lot of plot twists last night, so
There was a punter
I'm
drafted. And,
I'm
all
locked
sorts
in.
of crazy. Stephen Hacker sitting next to him, the team GM and a wide receiver of the Queen City Corsairs. Stephen, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Ready to get this night started.
Absolutely, me as well. With us via phone, the Hall of Fame running back of the Mexico City Aztecs, the sunglasses-wearing man himself, Ray Bentley. How are you doing tonight, Ray?
Well, it's about 8:07, and I just finished a gigantic bowl of soup. So if you hear snoring, no, I'm kidding. The draft is riveting stuff, and if I see any other punters go tonight, there's no way I'm getting sleep for the next week. So I'm doing pretty great, Mike.
So, just curious, are you kidding about the soup or about being sleepy?
No,
I never know what to make of the things that you say.
neither.
Moving on. Robert Garrett Jr., the tight end from the London Knights, also with us. Robert, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to be here again and watch some more get rookies taken and console Ray when another punter does not get picked tonight.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we do indeed see that punter. So we'll have to see who's right. So let's go ahead and get things started. Cameron Irvine, the commissioner of the Simulation Football League, is at the podium to get the first team on the clock. Cam?
The London Knights, welcome. Good evening, everybody. The London Knights with the 41st pick, the first pick in the third round. You are on the clock.
All right, the Knights are on the clock and ready to go. They actually traded away their second-round pick to Charleston, and that puts them on the clock here early in the third round. They will be on the clock again. Let's see, 2 picks from now, and then they'll have yet another pick all the way down at pick 54. So 3 picks for the London Knights tonight. And let's see, they have quite a few openings still on their roster. It looks like they have 8 spots remaining. So plenty of different ways that they can go here. Colin, we'll start with you. You see their team needs on the screen. There's quite a few of them. Which way do you think that they might go here with their first pick, and knowing that they're going to be on the clock again, just a couple picks from now?
Well, this first pick, I wouldn't be surprised because DeAndre Washington and Slim Shady both left in free agency. Linebacker in the front step is a pretty glaring need. And then obviously cornerback. You know, we at St. Louis signed uh, Evan Arthur and Dean Maddox went to Canada. So, you know, those are two spots to keep an eye on. I think they're pretty set offensively as far as the guys they have signed.
Well, they do indeed have a tight end already on their roster, and Robert Garrett Jr. Robert, have you heard any rumblings coming out of your team's locker room or office? Talking about what they might do with these 3 picks they have tonight.
I haven't really heard any rumblings about what they might do. They kind of talked about basically the team needs and um, those kind of things. I kind of agree with Colin, and I think they're going to try to bring in a linebacker with this pick to hopefully match the success that DeAndre Washington had with the team last year.
Well, we will find out as Cameron Irvine's back at the podium to announce the pick. Cam.
With the 41st pick in the SFL Winter 2020 rookie draft, the London Knights select Saren Storm, wide receiver. Vancouver, you're on the clock with pick 42.
Saren Storm, the wide receiver, is selected. 12 weeks banked. He did miss a couple weeks of check-ins, which might be one of the reasons that he slipped a little bit in the draft. Ray, what is your take of this pick?
I'll be completely honest. I was looking at London's needs, and even though I was leaning offense, I thought that Liam, with the success that he had with Reggie Streeter in the backfield last year, was going to go fullback to pair up with Mr. Williams. And I had a really great rumbling pun all ready to go, and now I feel adrift without it. So I do think it's a great pick. Angus was a pretty efficient at when he connected with his receivers, getting some yardage. So I think it's a good pick for London. Absolutely.
I agree. Stephen Hacker, what do you think of the first selection of London's, and where do you think they might go? They're on the clock again after Vancouver's pick.
Yeah, I think they probably did their research and liked what they saw there with the prospect. So I was a little fooled. I was thinking defense. I was kind of in the same boat as everybody else, and they went with wide receivers. So they must have really liked something and trusted the player a whole bunch to go with them right there.
Andy Hamilton's Vancouver Legion now on the clock, looking at their off-season moves, their gains, their losses. We know about their draft earlier on, a couple nights ago. On Saturday, they drafted Lee Adama, the defensive tackle. That was their first round selection. And then round 2, Rylan Caudill, the offensive lineman, which was the first offensive lineman. He stole your thunder. I know he took the thunder away right out of Queen City's hands, but so back on the clock again. What do you think they might do here, Steven?
I'm trying to get through their cap real quick, see what all they have on their roster. So, they could be looking. Let's see right there. They could be looking to help their defensive line. They could look at linebacker here. I think that would really help them defensively. They've got some people. No, I see linebackers there. I'm sorry, Doug Day, Brian Craven. I apologize.
Bash
So
Brothers.
defensive lineman. Yes, the Bash Brothers. I apologize. Little unprepared right now, but defensive lineman, defensive end, maybe. 3-headed monster there wouldn't help. Pair up with Lee Adama. Wouldn't be a bad thing.
Ray, what are you thinking? Vancouver, always a tough team for any team to play, but we've had our challenges with them in Mexico City as well. They've got 2 open spots left on the roster. What do you think they might do here?
Oh, the thing is, I can see Andy being crazy enough to take another offensive tackle or
Offensive lineman.
Offensive lineman. Yes,
Yeah,
there we
me
go.
too.
Excuse me, but it's knowing Andy and how he likes to analyze the game, maybe I'm gonna get a kicker for the second pick. It's possible looking at who they've got, but it's hard to tell with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they actually only have the 1 spot remaining. I don't believe their offensive lineman from yesterday was added to this sheet that I'm looking at. So, it's one spot to fill out the roster, and yeah, it could very well be a kicker. And the pick is in, so we will go to the podium, and Cameron Irvine will let us know who it is.
With the 42nd pick in the SFL Winter 2020 Rookie Draft, the Vancouver Legion select the father of offensive lineman Rylan Caudell, Bobo Caudell, offensive line. London back on the clock with pick number 43.
Bobo Caudell, offensive lineman. Ray, you hit the nail on the head. What do you think?
Well. I don't want to say Steven and I have switched because that's going to be the only thing I get right for the rest of the night. I
And the
guarantee you.
celebratory clap. I never had like a little celebratory audible clap, Ray.
It's constant in this house whenever I do anything in the SFL. Even again, when I fumbled, I stood up and screamed. So my neighbor bangs on the wall a lot. But no, I just had that gut feeling that Andy was going something crazy, and I think two offensive linemen was exactly up his alley.
Well, he's a well-traveled offensive lineman. Fun fact about him, he has traveled 3 million miles. So I'm not sure if he's an astronaut or what, but my gosh, that's a lot of miles. I thought I traveled a lot. Robert, what do you think about two offensive linemen being in Vancouver? It's, we were joking earlier about how the offensive linemen are coming for the job of the tight end. Now there's two of them right there in Vancouver. What do you think?
As Ray kind of said, I think this is just up Andy's alley. I think that, depending on where they put him, if they got both of these players tackle and guard on the same side of the line, there's just one way they're going to run the ball with Pseudo Nakai every time. And I mean, are these new defensive linebackers going to be able to stop these guys?
Yeah, I agree. Colin, the London Knights are back on the clock again, just under 4 minutes to go. Already made one pick tonight and about to make a second one. What other needs do they have left?
Well, it's just defense. They have to get a linebacker or at least a corner here. I was really surprised they went with wide receiver, considering they have a guy already who is of really high, Gabriel Manning, who's of course signed that monster contract, and just about shocked everyone that London was willing to give that.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, he's the highest paid wide receiver in the league, I believe, 121.97 contract. Obviously, a huge difference maker for the San Francisco Sharks, especially in the kick return game. And now he's paired with a couple of friends there at the wide receiver core. But yeah, they really do look like they have a pretty significant need on defense. They have one corner, one end, one tackle, one free safety, the end. That's it. So, Steven, is there any chance they don't go defense here, or is this pretty much a given based on what they have?
Well, Mike, I've been wrong, but I've been right. So I kind of want to stick to my guns. The wide receiver pick and with the first selection that shocked me. I think they're going to go defense. I really do.
All right. So, as I'm looking at all these rookies coming across the screen and we see these fun facts about them, one thing I was thinking about is I wonder if the viewers want to know fun facts about the panel. I mean, we can't just have it be all about the rookies tonight. Ray, fun fact about you. What do you got?
Oh gosh, the last time this went to me, I said I had a broken skull and then I fumbled a ball. So I'm not sure if I should really participate in something like this. I feel cursed kind of with it. So I guess that's my fun fact.
Okay. Well, that's something. Robert, what about you, man? Fun fact about Robert Garrett Jr. What can you tell people?
Fun fact about me, I essentially coach football year round. I coached a semi-pro team from January on to about the end of July, and then I coach middle school football from August into about halfway to October. So I'm just really deep into football.
Football
it's a lot of fun.
nonstop for you. Well, the pick is in, so we'll send it back to the podium so Cam can make the announcement and tell us a fun fact about him.
Why are you doing that? I have all this stuff going on. That was the last thing I expected. I did want to say when you said that's a lot of miles, I did want to do the holy moly, that's a lot of miles from the Capital One commercial. So there's that. I don't know if that's a fun fact about me. Maybe I watch too much TV. With the 43rd pick in the SFL Winter 2020 rookie draft, the London Knights select Evan Wood, tight end, Fairfax, Virginia. Queen City's on the clock with the 44th pick.
All right, so another tight end is taken. Evan Wood is the pick. Congratulations, Evan. And he is the newest member of the London Knights. You know, they already had a tight end in one Robert Garrett Jr. So, Robert, I'll send it back to you. What do you think about your new teammate and tight end number 2?
I'm kind of excited to work with Evan. I didn't expect them to take the tight end here. They had kind of talked about running a lot of two tight end stuff, but I figured that was going to be something a little farther down the line. But people shock people, and I think we're all pretty surprised.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting a tight end here. Colin, what are your thoughts?
Again, surprising. You look at the pieces they have on defense. It's not a lot to work with. It doesn't. To me, it won't make a whole lot of sense. You can score 100 points in a football game, but if the other team scores 150, you're going to lose every time. So I get they had 2 more picks, but I don't think it was a good move.
Eddie Gage of the Arizona Scorpions would certainly agree with you, Colin. He likes to say how the offense can sell the tickets, but the defense wins the games. And London's stocking up on offense right now. Evan Wood, their latest pick, started playing football at age 11. Steven, I'm hoping you didn't think that I would let you off the hook. Your team's on the clock. What's a fun fact about you?
I'm not very fun. Let's see.
Fun fact, I'm boring. Okay,
I
good.
am pretty boring, man. I pretty much eat, sleep, and drink SFL when I'm not at work. Something I like to read. I'm big into puzzles. I like football, I like basketball. I try to make music, but I'm not very good at that. But I like all kinds of music. Just
Ray's
tinker.
been known to make music as well, but it's usually bodily function.
The bean
So,
of the
I feel
bean
like
variety.
Steven's next answer was going to be that he liked long walks on the beach.
yeah.
I would rather be in the mountains, but either way.
Either way. So Steven, I'm sure you're not going to tell us anything about your intentions here with the 44th pick in the 3rd round.
No. I think the pick will speak for itself.
All right, sounds good. Colin, what do you think Queen City's up to right now? 2 minutes, 37 seconds on the clock.
Well, Steven said the pick would speak for itself, but just looking at their team needs and who they added so far, quarterback is got to be on the list.
It's got to be on the list unless they're just hiding AJ Caswell somewhere, which if I was a betting man, I'd say that Caswell's lying in wait until the opportune time to reappear, or he's passed out somewhere and they just can't find him. Either way, we'll find out what they're going to do with the 44th pick as Cameron Irvine's back at the podium.
With the 44th pick in the Winter 2020 SFL Rookie Draft, the Queen City Corsairs select James Manzi, wide receiver. The 45th pick, Sioux Falls. You're on the clock.
All right, so James Manzi watch has finally come to an end as he's the player that had the most weeks banked going into the draft, at least last night, and had still been on the board. And I kept seeing chat about it all night long. Why is Manzi still there? Blah, 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 blah. And he's gone now. Stephen Hacker, tell us about James.
Well, he definitely has a reputation now, but we saw some value there. We definitely think that he has something to offer. He's a young guy, so we thought that he deserves a second chance. Considering we felt that what was happening was a little unfair. chat was kind of getting at him a little bit, but that's all in good fun. He took it on the chin. I thought he handled a lot of the criticism the right way. So in our follow-up conversations on our scouting, he really impressed me. He wants to be here. He's hungry to be on our team, and that's something that we at Queen City we value. We want guys that want to be on our team and be willing to play ball for us.
Well, he's in the chat right now, and he says he's happy to be in Buffalo. So it looks like it should probably be a good fit. Ray, I know you spend quite a bit of time in the SFL chat channels. What can you tell
Don't do
us
that.
about what can you tell us about James?
James, I like him a lot. He joined up, and I did notice that at times, I don't know if it was his age or what have you, but occasionally there'd be a little bit of a grouping in on him. But I think just like Steven said, like water off a duck's back, he got better and better about it. And I not only do I think this is a great pick for Queen City, who I have to kind of trust now that with their quarterback situation, Steven and Eric and everyone, they know what they're doing, I think. But I think this is not only a great pick for their offense, but for their team.
All right, Sioux Falls Sparrows are on the clock. They picked up James Kelly, defensive end, in the first round, and then down in round 2, they picked up Jonathan Camp, another defensive end. Robert, do you think they're going to go with even more defense, maybe even more defensive line, or do you see the Sparrows going a different direction with this pick?
I think that they're going to go a different direction with this pick. Last night in the second round, I really thought that they might go with a fullback, actually, just because at times last year, the running game with Colin Hart kind of struggled, especially compared to previous seasons that Colin has had. And I know they were trying to find a way to fix that. So fullback really wouldn't surprise me here.
Yeah, fullback or maybe even offensive line. Now that we've seen a few offensive linemen coming off the board, that could also be a way to help shore up the offensive running game. Colin, well, you know what? Let's hold that thought because the pick is in. We'll keep the night rolling along. We'll send it back to the podium. Cameron Irvine to announce the selection.
With the 45th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 draft, the Sioux Falls Sparrows select Jalen Wells, fullback, and that, dating back to last night, is the 7th consecutive offensive player taken in the draft. Houston, you're on the clock with the 46th pick.
All right, so more offense, and it was indeed a fullback. So, Robert, just kicking it right back over to you. You got that one right on the head. What do you think of Jalen Wells, fullback?
I think Jalen Wells is a very good addition. Like I said, the Collins' running game last year kind of struggled at times, and that's such a big part of Sioux Falls' offense. So they're going to do whatever they can to jumpstart that and get that going again.
So, Colin, the selection was a fullback, Jalen Wells. As a team owner and coach, when you're game planning, do you see the fullback position as being one that's more versatile than a lineman because you could also hand it off to the fullback or maybe even throw it in a swing route, or you're still getting the blocking, or do you think is there another reason somebody would pick fullback over going offensive line here?
I think it is that versatility, and you look at Sioux Falls. They absolutely love the three man backfield formation. You see them came out in that a lot with the extra tight ends. It makes perfect sense if they want to continue along that same offensive vein, almost, to pick a fullback.
Agreed. So, Ray Bentley, Houston Hyenas on the clock. They kind of went through a little bit of a Cinderella run there at the last half of the season. Started off a little slow and then all of a sudden lit on fire to finish out season 13, making the playoffs in a very unlikely bid. But in the offseason, they had some pretty big names that left the team. Eddie Gage at strong safety, BJ Lovelace linebacker, defensive tackle, Chad tackle. What do you think the Hyenas are going to do here to help rebuild their team?
Well, that's and I've been saying this since the first round. I think the biggest question for me and the most exciting matchup of, now that you have been so gracious as to prod my brain with the information, week one, is to see Eddie Gage's new defense in Arizona take on Damon Simeon's offense and defense in Houston. So, looking at who stuck around in Houston and who he's got, I'm not sure where he's going to try to shore things up, or even if he's going to, try to shock the league with another one of those picks like offensive line or even, God forbid, punter. But it's I'm really interested to see how this defense works out now that Eddie has moved on to his own team.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see. And these picks are coming in rapid fire now as the Hyenas have made their selection. Send it back to Cam at the podium for the announcement.
With the 46th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 rookie draft, the Houston Hyenas select from championship to draft Angel Salinas, outside linebacker, Fort Worth, Texas. The 47th pick, that's Tulsa. You're on the clock.
All right. Angel Salinas is the selection. Congratulations. They drafted a corner in round 1, a linebacker in round 2, and now another linebacker in round 3. Steven, is this what you kind of expected? This helps, see this defense now under new leadership getting built in maybe, the eyes of the person running it now?
Yeah, for the pick, if you had asked me what I thought they were going to take, I would have said defensive. But as far as my analysis on the pick itself, Angel Salinas, 13 weeks banked. Looks like, he's been here since week 2 of this last season, so he's been around. I think he's going to be familiar with how to get involved as a player and how to contribute to his team. Is maybe a little familiar with the ebb and flow of the chat and game day and such. So really excited to see what he can do for Houston. Houston is one of the teams that I'm kind of looking out for. Obviously, with Eddie going to Arizona, I really want to see how those two teams can perform. So I want to see what Damon's got in mind for his defense.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
And the
Colin,
guy,
go ahead.
and don't forget the guy who runs that defense for him now, Ethan Kai. Great guy. Had him in St. Louis for a number of years. Decided to test free agency because he wanted more of a coaching opportunity. So his first real shot. And Damon's really good about mentoring and sort of uh, um, cultivating coaches, if you will. He's had a bunch of guys come out of his tree, not just Eddie.
Right.
Arrington's worked, quite a few other people. So it's just him putting his own imprint on the defense. Well, it's just another good addition to the front seven.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Tulsa Desperados now on the clock, just under 4 minutes to go. Looks like about 3.5. So Tulsa lost quarterback Ashley Jackson in free agency, free safety Kanye Rockefeller, and probably the most impactful name on that list is Ghibli Dew, the defensive end. With their pick in the first round, they did replace that defensive end position with Berto Demora. Um, Down in the second round, they picked up a wide receiver. So now that they're on the clock here, Ray, where do you think Tulsa might go with their last pick here in the draft?
I don't want to again peg a specific position, defensive end, to pair up with, say, their first draft pick. But if I had to pick defensive end, then I just think that if it was up to me, I think defensive end would be where I would pick.
And I
I
actually
think
I misspoke there. They actually do have 2 picks left. They have this one and one later on. If that might change your analysis at all.
even still looking at it, I as much as I want to see someone with a nice boot come in a little earlier again this time, I just feel that to help shore up their defense while they've got Deacon Nickens putting points on the board, that maybe it's time to partner up their draft pick and build up a good set of defensive ends in Tulsa.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've heard from a few different analysts, both last night and on Saturday, about how the defensive line, you really should have them in pairs, if not more. And right now, Demora is the only one on that line. So the pick is in. We'll find out if the first round selection gets a partner as we send it back to Cameron Irvine at the podium.
With the 47th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 Rookie Draft, the Tulsa Desperados select Chris Andrews, defensive end, Birmingham, Alabama. Chicago, you're on the clock with the 48th selection.
Congratulations to Chris Andrews and Ray Bentley. I think you're now 2 for 2 on your guesses. What do you think about that?
I'm terrified right now. This is not normal. My night should not be going this well. This should be the night for other people to be going well, but I
must have been the soup, man.
Absolutely. I guess I'm on the ball. But no, I think it's a great pick. They have now 2 rookies to help build up on either side and really turn into something down there in Oklahoma.
So his fun fact, I'm a big-time Alabama fan. He went to school there. So looks like his hometown is Birmingham, Alabama. So a Alabama guy through and through, it seems. So I'm not sure that being an Alabama fan is a fun fact. It's kind of everybody's an Alabama fan, right? They have a ton because everybody wants to ride that wagon, I guess. But Robert, what do you think about the pick of Chris Andrews, defensive end for the Desperados?
I think it's a great pick for Tulsa. Just like we've already said, the terrible twos is a real thing when it comes to defensive line. And the SFL is going to have a ton of them this year, and now Tulsa's got their own.
Yeah, agreed. So the Chicago Wildcats are back on the clock again. They selected Mike Improta. Speaking of fans, he's a Patriots fan, so we're not going to talk much more about him because terrible. But I digress. So
Mike will learn that Improta will learn that whenever you get made fun of, that's actually a term of endearment in the SFL. So just get used to that, buddy. If somebody's bagging on you a little bit, it just means that they like you.
Especially coming from me. If I'm not picking on you, I probably don't like you. Just to there's my fun fact. So that's why I never make fun of Cam. Wouldn't want to do that. Ron Huff was their selection in the second round. He's a free safety. I'm not sure I said Improta. Improta's a fullback. So then they picked up the free safety in the second round. So Colin, where do you think Chicago's going to go here now that they have what is their second to last pick? They also have one later on tonight.
Well, just looking at their roster, it's pretty complete. They'll most likely be running a lot of nickel sets with that second defensive because, to pair them up with Murray Spurgeon. At least that's what we did. I'm not trying to steal anybody's secrets.
Yeah, I hear you. So let's see. Just taking a look at their roster. Steven, you look deep in thought. What's your analysis here of the Chicago Wildcats roster? What do you think they're going to do?
I'm ice cold tonight on my predictions. These guys did their research tonight, and I got to hit this one. I got to get it right. But I'm going to lean on offensive linemen with the hope that I'm looking at the roster the right way.
Well, they have a pair of corners. They have free safety and a strong safety already. They've got their linebacker. They have actually two good ones, Clint Hendershot and Blake Craze. They've already got their fullback now with Improta. And, on offense, a quarterback, running back, we mentioned that fullback, tight end, wide receiver. So, there's no glaring need anywhere. So it could be, maybe a kicker, maybe even a punter. Who knows? Offensive line. We'll find out in a minute as we send it back to Cameron Irvine at the podium to announce the selection.
With the 48th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 Rookie Draft, the Chicago Wildcats select Oh, that's not it. Anthony C.C., kicker, Andover, New Jersey. Atlanta, you're on the clock.
Ooh.
Ice cold.
Well, these are some of the technical difficulties we have during a live production. So I think I threw him off when I said it.
I think
Wasn't making fun of him.
Greg can scream now because the kicker has been chosen.
No, well, we're really trying to avoid Ray screaming, especially after eating a full bowl of soup. You never know what might happen if he starts trying to,
Yeah, it's
really.
going to become a multicolor screen
That may
if you catch
that
my
may become
drift.
tragic.
I was going to be really surprised there for a second when I saw that there was a defensive lineman taken for Chicago. I think it was you, Steven, I think yesterday said that Chicago never takes defensive linemen, and then there was one listed there. So, but a kicker, Colin, what do you think about the kicker to help fill out this Wildcats roster?
Well, I think it's a good pick because it helps out your offense and your defense at the same time. With your offense, if you stall out, you can get a 3 points, and it's a little more of a certainty deal. In your defense, you're more likely to get touchbacks on the kickoff, which means your opposition has a bit longer way to go. So, it's a good pick, and it'll be interesting to see how they build the kicker. There's a lot of ways to go about it, and I know this is the first one for Shan, so
Well,
trial and error will be involved for sure.
a lot of people in the chat excited about this pick. A lot of people seem to like Anthony Cece, and he is the newest kicker for the Chicago Wildcats. With that, Atlanta is back on the clock. 3 minutes, 39 seconds to go. Let's take a look back at their selections so far in the draft. With their first pick, they picked Dave Axis, wide receiver. And then later on in the second round, they picked Tim Cleland, defensive end. They are back on the clock. They have this pick, and they also have the final pick in the draft. Robert, taking a look at Atlanta's roster, what do you think they might do now with the pieces that they have?
This could be another situation where we see another kicker come off the board, possibly, or even an offensive lineman. I'm not necessarily seeing a lot of not empty spots, but position needs that Atlanta needs necessarily. So I think they're going to go kicker.
Yeah, it's quite possible. They have 2 roster spots left open, and like I said, 2 picks tonight. So Ray, we've been joking over the past, well, I guess 4 or 5 days now, starting on Saturday, about kickers and punters and all this drama that you wanted. Is it still drama tonight when kickers and punters get drafted, or is that kind of what you were expecting for the third round? Is a lot of special teams?
Well, because I don't understand at all how to build an efficient and good team. I'm always looking for kickers, so I guess it's less dramatic for me on that sense. But no, coming from Shan picking one, that was actually pretty surprising. I meant to say, Shan, you're the man for doing that, and because I did my eyebrow was raised, but now if I had to make a prediction for his next pick, I think he's going to go with a punter. And I just think it's the right thing to do to train up 2 different guys to help your kick succeed. Because, again, here's my interesting fact. When I joined the SFL, I was a punter. I ended up coffin cornering a kick during a playoff game that 2 plays later was safetied. We lost the heck out of the game, but I'm a big fan of kicking and punting, and I think if you put some money into it, obviously seen with Kramer, Cole, and Mark last season, you can go places.
Absolutely. So the pick is in for the Atlanta Swarm. Send it back to the podium. Cameron Irvine, announce the selection.
By the way, Mike, you're a swell guy. I would never say anything bad about you.
I see
Ooh.
what you did
With
there.
the 49th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 rookie draft, the Atlanta Swarm select Jay Miraculous, free safety, the 50th pick. That's you, Florida. You're on the clock.
All right, Jay Miraculous, the free safety, is the selection. So I think everybody was wrong this time around. Although I don't think anyone actually locked in a definite guess. But Stephen Hacker, this is a second free safety now for the Swarm. They have Blake Chance is their free safety right now, and they also have a strong safety, Aaron Lee. So what do you think about this three safety look?
Well, a lot of times what you're going to see with the free safety look is actually that second free safety is going to be your nickel back, your nickel corner. They'll drop down, kind of play below the safety. Will pick up slot receivers, maybe tight ends. They'll pick up bigger, slower guys. They also can come down and help in run support. You may see a blitz from the nickel back. So I think that's a good move. Me myself personally, I like speed on the defense a lot more than I like size and strength. I would rather have a fast defense that can swarm to the ball. No pun intended. Swarm to the ball and help bring down the ball carrier as a group effort. I have no problem with that. I'd rather have good coverage down the sideline.
Well, I know how that's how Matt Wilson likes to develop a team as well. Is speed, speed, speed. He doesn't really care about much else, quite frankly. He just wants the team to be able to fly. So a pair of corners, Jack Napier and Blake Hamrick, will take the guys on the outside, and then Blake Chance and Aaron Lee will play safety, and then Jay Miraculous, the free safety, I guess, can play that nickel role. And gosh, it's going to be a hard defense to go up against, especially with two defensive linemen, two linebackers as well for the Swarm. So, Robert, as an offensive player, when you go up against a team that's like that and that heavily stacked at free safety, well, it's not free safety at the defensive backs. Does that concern you for your team's performance when you go up against a defense like this?
It's definitely a concerning thing to go up against just because it's that much harder to find an open spot on the field. A team like that, you just hope that they're playing in a lot of zone and you can find those little open spots and nooks and crannies that the field may have just to get a ball out.
So the Florida Storm are back on the clock again. The Storm selected a punter last night, and back in the first round, Alessandro Tomaello, a defensive end. Taking a look at their roster, where are they? There they are, hiding. So they've got a lot of pieces. It's obviously a team that's always done a lot of things well. Colin, with the pieces that they have in place now, what do you think they're missing? Do you think they might just complete their special teams with a selection of a kicker tonight to go along with their punter, like Ray was kind of referencing earlier as well?
There's a lot of directions you can go. This is Max we're talking about. I wouldn't be surprised if they completed that backfield with Cochran and Doyle at the fullback spot with a halfback. I know they tried it with Robert Merrill before, it didn't quite work, but I think having a guy who's just a halfback as opposed to a wide receiver trying to play halfback would you know would, would be a good pick.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So we're halfway through the third round, which means we are rolling right up along the end of this draft. So one of the things that we want to throw out there is still a lot of people on this rookie big board. I mean, a lot. There's several more rookies than we have draft picks. And, one of the things that I want to make sure everybody is aware of, and I hope I'm not stealing any of Cam's thunder if he was going to cover some of these later on, but, just to mention some of the players that have been signed throughout the season, during the season, that have become big names throughout the league. Jared Willis, actually both Willis brothers, Doug Day, Crash Combs, Mason Kirby, Angus McLean, Gus Schultz, Diesel Dawson, Kaz McFly, JC Torres, Rob Roby, Buchanan Simons, Harish Prasad before he died during a live event. Just to name a few, there's quite a list. There's several players that have been signed mid-season and were not drafted, and that were also just signed as free agents in general. I was never drafted. I signed as a free agent with Queen City when I started off. So there's a lot of players in the league that were not part of a draft and still made quite an impact on their teams. So don't fret if you're not drafted. It's not your end of the time in the league. It doesn't mean that you won't get an opportunity. I've seen players this is, I think, the fourth draft that I've done, and players have been drafted, and by 2 or 3 weeks in, they're off the team, and it creates an opportunity for you. So keep your head up. Don't worry if you're not drafted. But without further ado, let's see who is the 50th pick in the 2014 SFL draft. Cam?
With the 50th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 Rookie Draft, the Florida Storm select Ethan Sneed, kicker. The 51st pick, Mexico City. You're on the clock.
All right, Ethan Sneed, a kicker. Ray Bentley, they have a kicker and a punter. It's got to be an exciting thing for you.
Oh, I look at it this way. Season 13, Kramer. Every single Alaska team, kicker, Mexico City, Cole Varner. You don't win championships unless you got a kicker. And Mighty knows it. And I think it's a great pick. I think last night, shocking me and going the other route and getting the punter first that's an interesting move. And we'll see how that pays off, getting the kicker so late in the draft. But again, it's a great move, and it's nothing short of something I see coming straight out of Max Paul's playbook.
Yeah, I agree. And we had talked about it, about how having somebody kicking in both of those roles is important. Are you surprised as a running back to see the team once again now go without a star running back?
It's I think Alaska has.
Florida Ray.
I don't want to say not a no. Oh no, I did it. I was the one.
I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice.
Well, here I'll say Florida. When they were Alaska, it was never anyone jumped out. The whole team worked so well together as a unit that I again, I've got to trust in what Max is doing with his team and forgoing the halfback. As much as it hurts my heart, it's still it doesn't hurt that much because more room for Ray Bentley to exist. But I still think it's a good move because of who Max is.
Robert, Mexico City is on the clock. 3 minutes, 22 seconds to go. They selected a fullback, Mr. Phoenix Jones, in round 1. Down in round 2, they selected Brock Lee, a defensive end. And looking at the roster, that is the only defensive lineman that they have. Guapo Esteban left in free agency. So, we've heard it quite a bit. Do you think that Mexico City is going to go with another defensive lineman here to go with that whole theme of keeping defensive line in pairs, or are we going to go a different direction?
I think they could potentially take another defensive lineman, but I just keep thinking about the possibility of them taking another linebacker to match with Nick Daggs and strengthen that front stuff and still, but not taking a defensive lineman and just sticking somebody who can cover the running back and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that run, multiple linebackers along with multiple defensive linemen. In Mexico City's case, you talk about a strong secondary. They have 3 corners and a free safety and a strong safety. So the secondary is really pretty solid, but that front 7 can sometimes prove to be a weakness in the run game. So, I think any either defensive lineman or linebacker selection could help shore that up. But we'll see what Ramos and Matt have decided as Cam's at the podium to announce the 51st pick in the draft.
With the 51st pick in the SFL Winter 2020 Rookie Draft, the Mexico City Aztecs select Orion Taylor, defensive tackle, Dallas, Texas. Denver, you're on the clock with the 52nd pick.
Oh, Ryan Taylor from Dallas, Texas, right down the road from league headquarters. Welcome to the Mexico City Aztecs and the league. Congratulations. Ray, what do you think about your new teammate, and are you excited to have 2 defensive linemen help stop the opponent's run game?
Absolutely. That's anything again that can make me look significantly better against whomever I'm paired up against on the opposing side is gonna really excite me, or warm my heart up. So I think it's a great pick. Again, I trust it. Like I said with Max, I trust in Ramos fully as well. Without him, I wouldn't be wearing the gigantic heavy ring on my finger that I've got. So it's with this pick now that we've got 2, I think it's a great direction to take Mexico City's defense for season 14 and the future.
The only problem I see is that fun fact, which I'm not even going to read. I'm just going to have to move on from that. This is just anarch. I don't know. Colin, what do you think? 2 defensive linemen for the Mexico City Aztecs. Ramos always seems to have a great way of running his defense and having it be successful regardless of who's on the field. But, they've got 5 people in the secondary, a linebacker, now 2 defensive linemen. What do you think of the Mexico City Aztecs defense?
I think it'll be good. Ramos has the ability, the most out of who is on his team. You've seen him do it with multiple linebackers and you've seen him do it with a full second and not a full second. So the guy is very versatile when it comes to scheme, flexibility, and I like to think he taught me something too when I was over there. So no better guy to be coached by on defense.
So the championship winning Denver Nightwings are on the clock. 3 minutes, 16 seconds to go in their pick. In round 2, let's see, they it just refreshed on me. Jeremy Mosley, the tight end. How could I forget such a glorious pick as Jeremy Mosley, tight end, replacing Avery Allen, who left in free agency. Back in round 1, they picked Nick Kindler, the cornerback, and helped round out their team quite a bit. So right now they have, it looks like, 2 roster spots remaining. They've got 3 wide receivers. They have a quarterback and running back. They've already got a kicker. They've got 3 corners, defensive tackle, a free safety. So they've got quite a few pieces. Steven, where do you see the Nightwings going with this pick?
Well, I think I was asking for it yesterday, and I'm going to stick by that. I want to believe that teams are trying to stick towards the offensive lineman trend to try to offset all these defensive players being taken, especially in the front 7. So I'd like to think of Jeremy as a visionary. Don't let me down, buddy, but offensive lineman.
And I don't disagree with you there, because as these teams are getting better and better on defense, there's going to have to be a way to counter that. Otherwise, especially as broadcasters, Steven, we're going to be calling these games. There's going to be no points scored. Otherwise,
Yeah.
So, I mean, a good defensive battle might be fun to watch, but Colin, how many games have you called in your day where the final score is like 7-3, and it's like, wow, that was a fun one.
Yeah. Those battles can be a little
Dry.
dry, tough to call sometimes. But they do have they have Bailey Baca up there. So they really could go any myriad of misdirections. And if they go offensive lineman, Mr. Hacker,
I wouldn't throw your eggs in my basket right now. I'd capitalize on this moment to make yourself sound really smart.
Well, let's find out without further ado. Cameron Irvine back at the podium to announce the champions selection.
With the 52nd pick in the SFL Winter 2020 rookie draft, the Denver Nightwings select Al Lewis, defensive end, St. Louis, you're on the clock with the 53rd selection.
So Al Lewis, the defensive end, congratulations. He is the selection. Bailey Baca was the only defensive lineman on the squad. So looks like a lot of teams are following all the advice and words that we've heard throughout the draft process about adding multiple pieces to the defensive line. Ray, it's we talked about it yesterday, but it's got to be absolutely terrifying, from your standpoint.
Oh,
Who's going to be blocking all of these defensive ends? Buddy, I'm
there's-
going out to catch a pass. I'm not blocking these guys. I'm a
I'd
little scared.
really like to address that. Really, if you're going to bring up eggs and not actually bring me eggs to eat, I'm extremely disappointed in you, Steven. So,
Got some
but no,
hard-boiled eggs right now.
you're more than welcome to run as far as your legs will carry you. I guess you are the ATM. Is every time that Matt does go to you, he manages to get cash. I don't get it, but with all these defensive ends showing up, and I gotta admit, I think Denver's going to go with another one for their next pick or for their last pick of the draft, just because uh, pairing them up again just sounds like a good idea. It's the rule of two. There's always two Sith Lords. There's no reason.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So St. Louis Gladiators are back on the clock for their final pick in this draft. They've had a few. So Colin, can you tell us anything about where your team's going, or are you going to stay tight-lipped and keep it a secret?
Just say I'm gonna leave one clue, and it's deep. Do with that what you will.
Okay. All right, Robert, the St. Louis Gladiators, about 3.5 to go here. Where do you see them going with their final selection?
I managed to miss out on the clue there, but looking at their roster right now, I gotta think they're gonna go with linebacker here, just to give more Rivers somebody to work with in that second line of defense there on the defense, and really just tag team with the defensive line to create havoc.
So taking a look at the big board, Steven, there's still plenty of players left, even some that have a high number of weeks banked. As a GM, what can you say about that? To people that might be thinking, "Gosh, I have all of these weeks that I banked. I only missed one. I've been around since week 3. Why are people passing me over?"
Sometimes it's just about visibility. If you haven't taken the time to read player openings in the Discord, in the Discord server, and reached out to teams that are offering positions that you want to play, that's a missed opportunity. Um, sometimes people get it in their heads that I got to play for this team or that team, and not realize that they could be a part of something, building something, or maybe be paired up with someone who has some knowledge and learn and grow from that. I don't know if a lot of people realize that these are 1-season contracts. These are not 3-year contracts that you have. You're not, you don't have to necessarily be dedicated to these teams. So, there's journeymen around the league, journeymen guys that have been around for a while, but have maybe been on 3 or 4 teams in that time. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of opportunity for teams to get involved. So if you're worried about not getting drafted, reach out to some GMs and some owners. If you've made some relationships with other users in the league, talk to them, see if they know of any openings, or they can get you a chance to talk to somebody and get you on a roster.
Yeah, it's very well said. Sometimes just being noticed is going to be more important than anything else, and being the person that's actually in the chat and talking and making a name for themselves in a positive way, and being a positive role in that community. Without further ado, the 53rd pick is in. We'll send it back to Cameron Irvine to announce the selection.
With the 53rd pick in the SFL Winter 2020 rookie draft, the St. Louis Gladiators select Tony Roberto, defensive end. London, you're on the clock with back-to-back picks at 54 and 55.
All right, so a whole lot of London coming up, but for right now, Tony Roberto, the defensive end, is the pick for the St. Louis Gladiators. Colin, fill us in. Tell us about Tony Roberto and why you selected him at this position.
Well, he was number one on our board as far as the position went, and the guy's just really excited. And coming off of the wilderness of 3 consecutive 2-10 seasons, it feels nice to be one, and we're really excited to have him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Gladiators have been a team that hasn't had a lot of success in the win column over the past few seasons. And, I know that can be frustrating for players and create some dissension. And, I've never gotten that feel from the Gladiators. There's been some teams where you do sense some animosity, but, it seems like the players on the Gladiators enjoy playing there and want to be part of it, knowing that the turnaround has got to be just around the corner. Bringing in a guy like Gerald Smith to help turn that organization around, I can't sing enough praises about Gerald Smith.
Yeah, 100.
Take up all the airtime tonight, but he's my go-to stats man, and I wouldn't have it any other way during our broadcast other than to have Gerald Smith with Matt and I. Really rounds out our broadcast team real well. So happy to see him get that opportunity in St. Louis, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do for your franchise and helping you guys turn things around, because you're due for a turnaround here.
Fun
So
fact is, we never won more than 4 games in any single season. Hopefully, this is the year that changes. So.
yeah, I hope so. I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to call one of your games. Last season Matt and I were calling the games that were voted in, and if the Gladiators can go on a run and start making some waves, can certainly be a good way to get people to vote to want to see those games, and then Matt and I can finally get involved with that. So looking forward to it. Can't wait to see what happens there. So the London Knights, they're back on the clock again. Their first of the 2 back-to-back picks is already in. So we will see who this selection is and then break down what their final needs might be. So Cam, back at the podium, take it away.
With the 54th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 rookie draft, the London Knights select... Boy, that thing is all sorts of messed up tonight. My apologies. They select Dakota Wolf, defensive end. London, continue on the clock and save me from these technical difficulties.
poor Cam. I mean, we're 3 rounds in, folks. So this is, we're talking about, now over 5 hours of live production. So, these are the things that can happen. So
got the first 50 right.
So Evan Wood is the selection, and he, I believe, was the highest. No, not Evan Wood. Dakota Wolf is the selection. I believe he was the highest player left on the big board that is now selected and off the board. So, Ray, we'll kick it back over to you. What do you think about Dakota Wolf? Yet another defensive end to go up against.
It's of all the teams that have defensive ends, obviously the one I'm scared most of is the Knights because of Slyn Shady. So I guess it is actually the Tyrants now who I fear the most, but that position, especially once again pairing him up with rookie Matthew Braun, they're signing from day one of the draft. I think getting this rule of 2, all these little Sith Lords popping up all over the SFL, looking to stop this.
Sith Lords. I said, oh my God.
Well, I mean, clearly we're the good guys here, Mike. So
yeah.
I gotta, but I hate to admit how good of an idea it is, and I think he's doing something to kind of co-opt the phrase he's been using.
Yeah, so they picked a wide receiver earlier on in tonight's draft. They have another pick right now. They're on the clock with just a few minutes to go. So, Robert, what do you think about your newest teammate, and where do you think London might go with their final pick?
Yeah, Ray, I'd just like to say I'm really disappointed that you didn't take advantage and make a Jedi Knights pun there. But yeah, 2 defensive ends just seems to be the way to go in this draft.
Yeah,
And
bring it with a tackle.
And I think they got to go linebacker this pick, or maybe even a strong safety to pair with Marquise Reed in the backfield.
I agree.
Could be. Colin, what do you think they're going to do here?
It's probably linebacker would make the most sense just to round out what they have. It'd be interesting to see what the values of players are, given their sort of cap situation.
All right, well, the pick is in. The night's final selection is about to be announced. Cameron Irvine back at the podium.
We're flying tonight, Mike. These teams are ready
We
for
are.
the season. With the 55th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 Rookie Draft, the London Knights select Telemac Scarborough, inside linebacker. The 56th pick, that's Queen City, is on the clock. Pick wisely, Hacker.
Hacker back on the clock for the Queen City Corsairs. Telemac Scarborough, the inside linebacker. So the linebacker was indeed the selection. Colin, what do you think about their final pick?
Well, I think it was a good pick. It was certainly needed after losing Slim Shady and DeAndre Washington in free agency. It'll work out well for him. It's just a matter of what they give him in terms of value, because I think cap space is going to be a little.
Could be. So the Queen City Corsairs are now on the clock. Steven, who are you selecting and why? Too direct?
Just really hitting, just like, how to get me talking, Mike. Like I was telling Nacho that yesterday. I'm like, man, I really like working with Dags. He always sets you up with just such great questions, and then you're gonna hit me with this tonight.
Okay, listen, man, we're in the the back nine of the draft here. It's gonna start getting a little weird, so just you're gonna have to deal with it.
Oh, I'm having a great time. I'm having a great time with you. I'm glad the weather kind of got nasty up there, and you guys didn't decide not to travel.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you're here, man. I really do. I like working with you, man.
I appreciate that. So who you picking and why?
All right, we're still on that, are we?
Fine, we'll move on to Ray. Ray, what do you
There
think
you
the
go.
Queen City Corsairs are going to do here with their final pick here in the third round?
Oh, well, hold on, Steven. Hey, who are you picking real quick? Let me
For
know
you,
so
Ray.
I
For
can.
you, Ray. Anything. I will tell you.
God
It
bless.
is. Moving on.
I think something went wrong with his microphone. I'm not really sure, you guys. I couldn't really hear. It's especially with Steven on the broadcast, boy, I really hate walking through these minefields, but I'll do the best I can to see what I got. Looking at everything that they have, I'm looking at their last signings. Does Queen City have a running back right now?
Right now, no, I don't think so.
And-
They're still missing that whole pesky quarterback thing and
Well,
halfback thing.
the quarterback again. I trust that there's a plan that Barkley. He doesn't have 4 trophies for nothing, and Steven obviously is a very smart young fellow who just won't tell us who he wants. But that's the closest y'all are getting.
It's been submitted. We're processing.
All right. Well, Ray, you made 2 guesses earlier on, and you hit the nail on the head. So let's see if you can get the hat trick. Pick a position.
No hat trick tonight. You're not going to get that on me, Ray Bentley.
Oh no, I'm not gonna choose a position for this one because once again, I have the fellow coaches here on with me. I feel we'd be doing them a disservice, and I know just how badly I'm gonna screw it up. So I like to quit when I'm ahead.
All right. Well, their team needs are plentiful, even though I know Eric Barkley and Stephen Hacker are just toying with the league by not announcing.
Oh, it's
their
Nacho's
picks.
fault. It's Nacho. He's
is it?
things down, yeah, and just
blame the guy that's not here. That makes sense.
get involved more, buddy. You should be here where you have a platform where you can defend yourself besides in the chat over there.
I was just say, but I know I saw him in the chat earlier on tonight. I think
Yeah,
he
he's
said
upset. No love.
no love. He says, "Yep." Oh well. So we'll just go ahead and blame him. But now that the pick is in, the wait is over. We can find out what the Corsairs are up to, and if they draft a quarterback in the bottom of the third round, we'll see. As Cameron Irvine's at the podium, Cam, take it away.
Queen City team owner Eric Barkley with the comment of the night: "It's not your fault." That stopped me in my tracks with that one.
Yes.
With
I'll
the
stop anything in its
56th
tracks.
pick in the Winter 2020 SFL Rookie Draft, the Queen City Corsairs select Benjamin Garcia, defensive tackle. Houston, you're on the clock with the 57th selection.
Okay, Benjamin Garcia, the defensive tackle, is the pick. Congratulations, Benjamin. Steven, tell us about your selection.
So we're really excited to have this particular piece to our defensive puzzle. Last year we had really great production from our ends. I didn't feel like we got enough respect, even though Hasten made the Pro Bowl. But 12 plus sacks for both of our defensive ends, and it really made a big difference, especially while I was transitioning during first season as defensive coordinator, trying to figure out what plays really worked for me. Having Jeff Duffy especially already built up, ready to go, allowing Hasten, who came in as a Max Silver defensive end, that was great for us. And then it just let Hasten develop. And then by about week 5 or 6, I mean, they were unstoppable, man. It was great to watch them, and they really made my job easier, allowing me to kind of play with some things to figure out what exactly I wanted. So I like having a third defensive lineman. I think that's just going to make what we do with our front seven that much more dangerous.
Yeah, I agree. It's certainly going to make it a lot harder to run through. Good thing the Aztecs have a man of Ray Bentley's caliber to get around those guys and keep on running. So just passing along a question here, Stephen, from Jeremy Vega. Who's your halfback then?
I have unofficially not seen that part of the roster yet. So
Really? So you
we'll
don't
figure out a
even
name.
know?
We'll figure out a name.
All right. Well, you can't have Ray. He's accounted for.
We're going to go with Bay Rentley.
Bay Rentley.
Wow. Already done. Eric, mark it down. Bay Rentley. Got
I hear he's trouble.
Especially
So
on his
Houston,
stud.
Houston Hyenas back on the clock. Colin, they've made some moves in this draft so far. They've drafted Jacob Clear, the cornerback, with their first round pick down in the second round. Shane Easley, the linebacker, and then they've already been on the clock tonight. Angel Salinas was their pick, another linebacker, and final selection for Houston. What do you think they might do with this one? Is Colin deep in thought or muted? I think he's muted.
Mute.
Did you mute yourself, Colin?
The smile.
Wah, wah.
I did mute myself. Sorry.
Happens to
There
the
you
best
are.
of us. Happens to the best of us.
So Houston, what do you think they'll do?
Probably have they have an inside linebacker?
Well, they drafted two linebackers. They have Angel Salinas. They have let's see where go Shane Easley, who was in the second round. So they have picked up a couple linebackers. They picked up a corner. They did lose BJ Loveless in the off season, but have added a couple pieces back already.
Yeah, they filled that void. Probably along the front seven. Ethan coming from St. Louis. When he was with us, he knows the value of defensive. So I wouldn't be surprised if he went there.
Houston, one of the franchises that still has several openings on their team, even after already making a selection last night and tonight, they still have 4 spots open on their roster. So even after this pick, they'll still have positions that they need to round out. Robert, do you have an opinion here on Houston, where they might go with this pick? Are they going to go offense, defense, special teams, or what do you think?
I think they're going to go either defensive end or defensive tackle. Give Mike Johnson somebody to work with there on that defensive line to again bring up the terrible twos, but it's working in this draft, so I'm sure we're going to see it again.
So sticking with defense, they've picked a defensive player in the first round, the second round, and already in the third round. Ray, do you think DeMond is just going to keep on building this defense up, or are they going to select an offensive player, maybe an offensive lineman, now that they've seen all of these defensive linemen being taken?
Defensive tackle.
Going with defensive tackle?
Defensive tackle. I'm looking at what Houston's got, and I think again with Eddie, and I hate sounding like a broken record, but I think pairing Fats Johnson up with another tackle somewhere, I it's screaming in my brain, DT. So
All right. Well, we'll see if you can get the hat trick.
pray I'm wrong, so I can finally feel not nauseous.
Oh, we don't want you to throw up your soup. That would be tragic.
Love
So
to keep it in.
Well, yeah, it sounded like it was good soup. So the clock is at 0, so we should find out soon who the Houston Hyenas have selected, if they did indeed even make a selection. We did see in the draft last season where Atlanta had a selection that they ended up not picking. And Steven has his hand raised, so I'm going to ignore him and keep on talking. So I'm kidding. What's up, Steven?
I just wanted to key back in on the point that, like what we were talking about earlier, you mentioned that Houston has a lot of openings. So for those that maybe weren't listening, hit up Kentez Johnson, Ethan Kai, and DeMonson. If you feel like you're not going to be drafted or you want an opportunity and you have something to prove, those are the 3 guys to talk to you right now. We just gave you a tip. You're welcome.
Yeah, that is a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't even thinking about that. But absolutely, that's a team that's going to have roster spots left open after the draft, and they're going to go quick. And another great point that Stephen had brought up earlier is, as a GM, I mean, guys, that's the sort of person that's going to be finding you on the field, or excuse me, in the chat, and wanting to sign you to a team. They're only going to notice you if you reach out and get yourself known. They're not just going to be scouring through Discord to look at the list of rookies and start contacting you to see if you want a position. They're going to expect you to contact them. So Houston is going to be a team with those opportunities. So as we wait to see what's going to happen with this pick, I was mentioning how Atlanta in last season's draft, they had their pick come up and then they ended up not selecting anybody. Why? Well, the player that they had selected, the player that they wanted to select had already been selected by another team prior to them. And in the time that they had on the clock trying to reach out to multiple other players that, didn't necessarily want to play the position that was open to them, they thought, you know what, we'll just go ahead and sign someone in free agency, which is, another good point too. If, teams end up not wanting to pick a player here, it might just be because they're looking in free agency to find one. So with that, we'll send it back to the podium. Commissioner Cameron Irvine's ready to go.
With the 57th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 Rookie Draft, the Houston Hyenas select Kai Cash, strong safety. Tulsa has the 58th selection. You're on the clock.
Kai Cash, congratulations. The strong safety is selected. Indeed, not a defensive tackle. Ray, are you disappointed or happy?
No, it's a wave of relief washing over my body, like so many waves on the beach. But real quick, I want to get back to what you were saying and what you had mentioned earlier about a bunch of people who had, joined on, maybe not been drafted, but joined on mid-season.
Yes.
And there's somebody, in fact, on this panel who joined in the middle of season 7, and it is in fact me. So even if tonight you don't find your name getting called, or your name's not a different color when you wake up in the morning, don't worry about it. Keep on keeping on, because one of these days you're gonna find a spot on the team. You're gonna find yourself on the field, not even believing what you're seeing. It's gonna be something else entirely. So just just keep grinding and you'll make it one day. And take it from me, I'm in the hall now. So even with a mid-season join, you guys can totally absolutely do this. So
That's right.
Agreed.
And then you too can wear those sunglasses someday, live on a draft set.
and get the generic football medal.
Ray was sharing with the draft panels right before we went on the air some of his medals and trophies, and he's got a whole collection of stuff there in his office. He has a medal that says football and has a helmet, and that's it, I believe. Ray, wasn't it?
it's a helmet, a football, and a goalpost, and it just says
It just says
football on it.
Yeah.
It's got a
Doesn't
nice
say
red,
if it
white, and
was
blue
first place, second place.
Participation trophy.
ribbon around
Yeah.
it.
Did that come through? Did you hear that?
That's fantastic. So Tulsa is back on the clock. Team needs defensive tackle and kicker. And earlier on this evening, they selected a defensive end. So is there any way other than kicker, you think, Robert, that they might go, or are they going to go ahead and take a kicker and help kind of round out their team? What do you think?
I'd like to think they're going to take a defensive tackle here. It seems like another one of the general blueprints so far for the offseason and headed into the draft has been a D tackle and two defensive ends at the least. Once things are said and done, and they got their defensive ends, they don't have a defensive tackle quite yet. I think that's the way they're going to go now.
All right. So offensive line, we saw some offensive linemen getting drafted in round 2. We've seen one so far in round 3. Personally, I kind of thought round 3 might get used for more of those less common positions from prior seasons, where we might kind of see a run on offensive linemen and kickers and punters. And, some of those teams, because of the expanded rosters, now teams are able to fill in their rosters with positions like that. But personally, little surprised. We've seen one offensive lineman and one kicker, and that's it so far in round 3. So, Steven, is that kind of what you were thinking, or are you not surprised by the lack of the special teams there?
Well, I kind of value special teams, but I think that it kind of comes down to your build. At the end of the day, it's what you see your team, what you want your team to do, and then also can you make that fit under the cap? I think that's something that doesn't get spoken about a lot unless you're in the general manager front office circle. There is a cap. We do have to fall under a certain point value with these signings. So sometimes it's not necessarily that you don't want to have that other position. It's just that maybe you can't quite afford it. So
Right.
I think some picks, even Saturday round 1, were dictated by maybe cap space. And again, those are things that the front office has to take into consideration when determining who to pick. What prospect fits their board? Can we sign him at the right value? Can we get him in here and get him on our team? So why how that affects the special teams, I don't think it does so much, but I think that would explain why there's runs of maybe odd positions earlier in the draft, because I think teams wanted to get those guys that would play those positions with the most value early and secure their guy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the pick is in for Tulsa, so we will send it back over to Cameron Irvine at the podium to announce the 58th selection.
With the 58th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 Rookie Draft, the Tulsa Desperados select Jaden Swift, defensive tackle. The 59th pick, that's Chicago. You're on the clock. Last 2 picks.
Absolutely. 2 picks to go. Chicago and then Atlanta will finish the draft off. Jaden Swift is the selection. Congratulations. The defensive tackle is indeed the position. So, Robert, obviously you're not surprised by defensive tackle, but what do you think about this pick?
I think it's a really good pick for him. And honestly, the first thing I think when I see all the defensive tackles and defensive ends coming off the board is the running backs better prepare, because it's going to be a very different year this year for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be Going to be a lot tougher to run. So, Colin, defensive tackle, yet another defensive lineman taken. How is this going to play into your game planning when you're trying to figure out how to attack these opponents with just so much star power on these defensive lines?
Well, you gotta look at their strengths, how they're built, what they're best at, and then you try best you can based on the people you have, plays you run, to not really completely shut them down, make them not as effective as they usually are.
So Ray, as a running back, we've talked about it quite a bit already, but a lot of defensive linemen. Is there anything that you would think that working with Ramos, suggestions that you might try to make, things that you think you can help to counteract all this defensive line here? Or are you just going to put your faith in his hands and hope that he can figure it out for you?
When there's one set of footsteps in the sand, that's when Ramos was carrying me because I scurried up him like a coward. So these are some impressive looking defensive builds coming out of a bunch of different teams now, and I as not Ray Bentley, I love seeing this plan to stop the running back. As Ray Bentley, please no Steppy.
So, Steven, refresh my memory. It was you yesterday that said that Chicago just simply doesn't take defensive line. Is that accurate?
Yeah, man. I think in the time that I've been in the league, I don't recall them ever having a defensive line.
All right. Well, there are two needs listed that haven't been picked yet: are defensive tackle and defensive end. So if you're going to stick to that, they're not taking defensive line, which I tend to agree with you, because when we were talking about it yesterday, Shan Varner messaged me with a laughing emoji saying, "Talk to Steven." And
Yeah,
that was what we had talked about. So if those aren't their needs, what are their needs?
well, there was times back whenever Shannon and I called some games together back when I first get broadcasting that he actually brought that to my attention. Um, but I think, man, that's tough, dude. To be looking at the roster, I mean, they would be looking at, maybe Shan Varner Jr. to line up as tight end, number two, uh, or they could shock the world. Maybe they do go defensive lineman. If I was going to have one, I would probably pick an end. But maybe they do. Maybe they go defensive lineman and buck the trend. With the additional roster size, maybe they figure it's time to grab somebody.
Well, they have two corners. They have let's see, two safeties, and then they drafted a safety last night who I believe will play that nickel role that you were talking about earlier. A couple of linebackers. They have quarterback, running back, tight end, three wide receivers. I'm going to go with they are drafting an offensive lineman. So that's my guess. Let's send it over to Cameron Irvine at the podium to announce the 59th pick.
With the 59th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 Rookie Draft, the Chicago Wildcats select Gerald Giudicelli, defensive tackle, Orangeville, Pennsylvania. Atlanta, the 60th pick. You're on the clock.
Gerald Giudicelli is the pick, a defensive tackle. So, Steven, are you surprised?
Yeah, actually, I am. I just kind of pulled that out of my hat and just kind of threw it out there, hoping that I was right. But Giudicelli, man, that's a good one to say, man. I'm gonna have a hard time with that on game day. I'm gonna have to practice that one. But I like the pick.
Good thing that the broadcast director has that pronunciation guide for you guys.
Yes. But you would be hoping that I could read.
Oh, jeez. Anyway, so Ray, I'm gonna throw this one over to you. Look at the fun fact here. Will probably be the best cook on the team. He loves to grill. Do you think maybe that's why Shan Varner drafted him? Not necessarily because he even wanted a defensive tackle, but because he wanted a cook.
Well, that would make a lot of sense to me, although I don't know whether or not that fact is true, having eaten now at Mikey and Prota's house. So I'm more than willing to be the guinea pig for both of them to try their culinary talents out. I think is the best way to put it.
So
But
SFL 2020 convention is actually an SFL cook-off. Is that what you're telling me?
yeah, it might
Sounds like
I definitely have to go then. Can't miss this one.
yes.
it
But
might be.
I feel
So
like
Mark Chisholm in the chat saying it's time for Mr. Irrelevant. His team is on the clock right now. Atlanta with one final selection to complete this draft. Robert, what do you think Atlanta's going to do here? After all of these players have been drafted, there's one more remaining. What's the pick?
Their last pick earlier was a kicker, correct?
Oh, let's see. Going back, Atlanta is the one team that I don't have updated on this sheet here. I'm not sure.
Pick 49 earlier.
I believe it
cut
was
out
a-
there, Steve.
I believe it was a kicker, and if so,
Free safety.
Free
free
safety.
safety. Okay, then I think they're going to go kicker here. That's really one of the only blank spots I see on their team sheet here that I'm looking at, and I think it's a solid way to round out the draft.
I couldn't agree more. Colin, do you think they would go with anything other than kicker here?
Well, if they do go something with kicker, it makes the most sense.
Ray, we talked about kickers earlier on in the draft and the importance of them having a kicker like Cole Varner on Mexico City. You've stated your opinion on kickers and how important they are. I believe you said, you just simply can't win the championship without one. Is that something you would stick to?
I absolutely believe it. I mean, look back it was season 10 or 11, I believe. There were 5 games out of our 7-game run that got us in the postseason that were won off of Cole's leg alone.
Yeah.
So a kicker is an investment that's really hard to beat. And with Mark's comment in the chat, let's go, Mr. Irrelevant. I mean, I don't know. I've heard fiddle music coming from him before, so I don't know if I trust it entirely, but I think kicker's a pretty safe bet for this one. Now, watch me be terribly wrong.
Well, we're about to find out as Cameron Irvine is at the podium for one final pick as the Atlanta Swarm have made their selection. Cameron Irvine, wrap it up.
60 picks. Largest draft in league history. What a draft. Thanks to Mike and Steven and Robert and Colin and Ray and everybody. Did I miss anybody, Mike?
No, that's everyone
thank
from
goodness.
the past 2 nights.
Thank goodness. I never hear the end of it when I do stuff like that. With the 60th pick in the SFL Winter 2020 rookie draft, the Atlanta Swarm select Shane Short, kicker, Savannah, Tennessee. And if you did not hear your name called in this draft, have no fear. There are Hall of Famers, team owners that went undrafted too, along with Pro Bowlers and all sorts of stuff. Keep an eye on the player openings channel for UDFA opportunities, and then during the season opportunities as well, and keep banking that value if you don't have a contract. Back to you, Mike. Thanks for everything.
Absolutely, Cam. Happy to be here to do these drafts, and glad to have this panel with me as well to help break it all down. So Shane Short, the guitar player from Savannah, Tennessee, is the kicker for the Atlanta Swarm. So Ray, the Swarm have a kicker now. They had quite a good season last season. Is this the piece that you think was missing that'll help them the most out of everybody that they drafted? Mr. Irrelevant actually making the biggest impact?
My crystal ball is cracked and disgusting, and I very much need to clean it. But looking at Atlanta's season and their games, it looks like, with that star kicker, with someone that's maybe going to be able to hit those field goals from 45, 50, 52, 53, is really going to help, in those long situations where they might have been able to kick it, but the non-star just couldn't get it through. So I think this is an excellent pick and an excellent way to close out the draft. I mean, Mr. Irrelevant as a kicker? No. Trust me, my friends. There is no way the kicker is irrelevant.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not irrelevant. He's going to make an impact just like all the other draftees. So Stephen Hacker, your team, the Queen City Corsairs, is another one that has several openings still even after the draft. Is kicker somebody that you're looking for, or what sort of players might be undrafted right now that might want to reach out to Queen City? What sort of positions are open?
So I will tell you, if you're a rookie and you want to be rostered, just contact me. We'll go from there. Really, what I like to do the most is to try to help people. So if you're having a little bit of trouble finding a team, I'm more than happy to help get you down the right path. So even if it's not necessarily on Queen City, that's fine. Hit me up. We'll figure something out. I will tell you again, I gave you a hint earlier about Houston. Do the same thing with Vancouver Legion. Andy Hamilton in Discord, you can hit him up. Vancouver owner, he'll get you on the right track. Queen City owner, Nacho Sicario, vice president of football operations with Queen City. Hit us up. We're happy to talk with you and figure out exactly where you're going to fit, how to get you on a team.
For those players that are undrafted, you can go to the player openings channel on the SFL Discord server and you can find posts from several teams. You can also contact the teams directly without even seeing a post just to see where they're at. The list of team owners, GMs are in the information channel, which is in the same group, the same information group as the player openings. So go to the information channel to find out who you can contact and go to player openings to see what positions are still in need. Now that the draft is complete, I'm sure there will be several posts made in that channel by owners looking to fill out those rosters. So, final thoughts, Cam. Before I go around the panel, do you have any final thoughts for the league?
I had already taken everything off and said, "Hey, the draft's over," and then you called me back, and I had to run back and put the jacket on, all that stuff. No, I don't. It was a wonderful off season. Me and you, Mike, were in a meeting with For the Fans this morning, putting together our schedule. I don't know if you want to reveal what opening night has in store for the people, but we sure are excited about what we believe is etched in stone at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to have you ask me if I want to reveal it, and then I'm going to say, no, we're not revealing anything. Forget these.
I almost did. I almost did. Man, he is a spoil sport, I tell you.
Well, I guess you can tell them about the triple header Friday that we have planned.
Opening night triple header on television. Way to go, Mike.
Absolutely.
Hey, you did it, buddy. You did it. You partied. I knew you could party.
And that's about as hard as that party will go. So that's it. That's all I got for you.
No, I'm great. Looking forward to the season. It kicks off just less than a month from now. Now we can officially say. So super excited for that, and we have a ever-growing community here, and I can't wait to see what expansion has in store, and whether that be roster or teams and all that stuff. It's going to be one heck of a 2020. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, everybody out there. Enjoy your celebrations for the holidays, and we'll see you on the other side of it.
All right, Robert Garrett Jr., final thoughts on the draft.
I mean, I think it's been a great draft overall, and the season's right around the corner. Like all these guys have kind of already said, reach out to teams. I know London has already posted a player opening for some of the defensive guys that they still need. And again, being undrafted isn't a bad thing. I'm another one of those signees during the middle of the season. So just you got to get out there, make your name known, and hope to see you guys on the field.
Appreciate you being here. Ray Bentley, the Hall of Famer, your final thoughts on 3 rounds of drafts. You've been here for all 3 of them.
I said it during night one, but it's an absolute pleasure to be able to join not just my favorite broadcasters, but the commissioner and everyone for such a historic event. And it's been more fun than I can even describe. So before anything else, thank you from the bottom of my heart for even this opportunity to join you all. Having said that, these defenses. Oh, gosh almighty.
Start training, Ray.
Leg days never skipped in the Bentley house, but I gotta say again, I'm keeping it my thrill of the draft. Stone cold of the century is Florida taking a punter in round
Taking a
2
punter.
yesterday. That just absolutely floored me, and I can't wait for that moment next season.
I'm just glad you got your drama that you had been asking for. So was glad to have you here. Colin Northrup, final thoughts on the 3 rounds of the draft.
Well, it certainly was enjoyable. We saw a run on players like I was expecting. I think Florida taking Tomasello in the first round or late in the first round when he had such a high value was still a good steal. A lot of teams had a lot of good drafts. There were some head scratchers, but I think teams filled out what they wanted.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and good luck to the St. Louis Gladiators in this upcoming season. Stephen Hacker, your final thoughts on the draft?
I think probably the big highlight for me, or at least I think whenever we look back on it, probably Johnny Pickler at 1 was a pretty good pick. I think that is going to set the tone for St. Louis moving forward. So I think when we look back on this one, that's going to be the pick that how we evaluate the class. With that being said, I wanted to hit one more little keynote for all the new guys, rookies, drafted or undrafted. The drafted guys, you're about to hit your progression. So it's a bit of a step up from what you've been going through with your weekly check-ins. But don't be afraid to talk to your owners, your GMs, and other teammates. These guys will help you through the process. It's going to be confusing at first. It's going to be a little bit of a trick, getting used to what day, when can I submit, what do I have to do, where, how. Ask questions. Always ask the questions, and you'll get the answers. Find the people you can trust, get solid answers, and then build your knowledge from there. And it'll be like clockwork, dude. I can remember when I first started, it was like, what am I doing? When? What? Oh, and now it's just like I don't even have to look at what day it is. I just know I got to check in. Oh, I know I got a broadcast. I know I have these things. So just you'll build up a repertoire. It'll become a habit, and you'll be going. But at first, ask questions, pay attention, and be involved, and it'll all work out.
Thank you very much for being here. So, just to wrap things up, 3 rounds of live draft coverage, nearly 6 hours we've been on the air, 2 of which were live in studio. You want to talk about the league that you're joining and how special it is and how fast it is growing. Just 4 seasons ago, we had games that were being broadcast on Rabbit with no broadcast commentary at all. It was just the game being played. Now we have a broadcast team on every single game that is broadcast out there, and we're doing them on television. So, to be live in studio with Ray Bentley and Mark Chisholm and Chris Curtis, Andy Hamilton, Andrew Rustelli, Eddie Gage, and obviously Cam was there too. It was truly an honor to be able to do that, and I can't wait to see where this league goes and how much it grows just a few more seasons from now. It's truly going to be incredible. We've had probably about 40 people drop off during our closing, and now that the people that didn't want to listen to our closing are gone, here's the week 1 slate for our upcoming season. We start on Friday, January 17th
So mean.
with a triple header starting at 6 p.m. Eastern time. 8 p.m. and then 10 p.m. makes up that triple header. That's going to be followed by 5 back-to-back games on Saturday, January 18th.
Ooh.
They will all be on television, every last one of them. Not a single one of those week 1 games is going to be on Twitch. They're all going to be on the For the Fans network. And then there's going to be 2 more games on Monday, another double header. So that is going to be our week 1 slate. No games on Sunday that week, but they're going to have 3 on Friday, and then we'll have Saturday and Monday. Just so everybody knows, it looks like what we're going to be trying to do for the most part. The schedule is always a little bit fluid just based on availability of all the people involved in the league, but we're most likely going to be doing Saturday, Sunday, and Monday games, and Tuesday will be more of a backup day. So expect more games on Saturday. We dabbled in them a little bit this past season, but for the most part, it's going to be Saturday, Sunday, and Monday this upcoming season. So with that, let's get this draft wrapped up and closed out. Again, it's been almost 6 hours of coverage. I've loved every single minute of it. I want to thank my entire panel of analysts these past 2 nights and the team that we had with us in Woburn, Massachusetts at For the Fans headquarters for day 1 of draft coverage. Appreciate everybody joining us for the draft. Thank you for watching the 2020 winter season 14 SFL draft. For Cameron Irvine and everybody here at the Simulation Football League, I am Mike Dagg saying thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the field. Have a good one.
All right. Have a good one.